In June of 1943, in the largest city in the state of Michigan, 34 people were killed, 700 injured, and 1,300 arrested in what was called a race riot. William N. Robson dramatized this race riot. The program was entitled An Open Letter on Race Hatred. It won him a Peabody Award. Time magazine referred to it as one of the most eloquent programs in radio history. Bill, what's the background of the open letter?
Well, Walter White, who was executive secretary of the NAACP at the time, was a good friend of mine. He was naturally concerned about this matter in Detroit, and there was concern throughout the responsible black and white communities all over the country, because there were several terribly dangerous areas which were apt to explode in a similar fashion at any time. Philadelphia was one, I believe. Houston, Texas was another. There were 2 or 3 others. Walter and Bob Heller got together and talked about it. Heller was the executive secretary of AFRA, it was then, the Union of Radio Actors. And they thought it would be a great idea for CBS to put on to do a documentary about the situation in Detroit and try to forestall by presenting the uselessness of this kind of action to the nation, forestall problems in other areas. They discussed the matter with Doug Calder and indicated that they would like me to write and direct.
You were doing one thing which, at this time, I guess, was totally taboo or had never been done before. It was almost advocacy. You were advocating something with this broadcast, were you not?
Yes, we were advocating no more racial intolerance.
Right.
Yes, indeed. This was the first advocacy. This broadcast, the script was researched from 2 sources, the white press and the black press. And it was very interesting, I discovered, that the reporting was completely different. There were 2 different things had happened, if you read.
And you had to find the truth and balance it.
That's right. But some of the most telling episodes in this program we're about to hear did not appear in the white press, but they appeared in the black press. It was a general assumption by the white community that the blacks were to blame for this. Now, nobody knew then, and nobody knows to this day, what started this trouble. So I had an extremely challenging problem here, not knowing what started it, to assume what might have started it, given the circumstance of overcrowding, a hot summer's day, and all of the other conditions that prevailed at that time. It was a difficult exercise, and how well it succeeded, you can judge for yourselves.
The postscript on the program was done by a man, I guess, by today's almost a legend, Wendell Wilkie. And Mr. Wilkie came on for, about 5 minutes and
something like that, yeah.
Offered his plea for the elimination of race hatred. You won your second Peabody Award for this show, correct? The first was for The Man Behind the Gun, which we're going to hear, in roughly a half hour or so. The narrator is Jackson Beck. We hear him now on a lot of TV commercials, but he was one of your regular...
yes, well, he was the narrator on Man Behind the Gun. And then, of course, many of the actors in this production were part of the stock company of Man Behind the Gun.
I believe you'll hear Frank Lovejoy in the
I think Frank Lovejoy's on it, yes.
It's July 24th, then, 1943. This is the open letter on race hatred.
Dear fellow Americans, what you are about to hear may anger you. What you are about to hear may sound incredible to you. You may doubt that such things can happen today in this supposedly united nation. But we assure you, everything you are about to hear is true. And so we ask you to spend 30 minutes with us, facing quietly and without passion or prejudice a danger which threatens all of us. A danger so great that if it is not met and conquered now, even though we win this war, we shall be defeated in victory. And the peace which follows will for us be a horror of chaos, lawlessness, and bloodshed. This danger is race hatred. Tonight, race hatred is breeding and festering in a score of booming, overcrowded war centers. And so tonight, we ask you to hear what happened in Detroit, because we believe that no sensible, fully informed American will allow to happen again, here at home, what he is fighting against all over the world. Sunday, June 20th, was hot. Detroit, sprawling across the flat Michigan prairie, baked in the nearly vertical sun. In the workers' camps on the fringe of the city, trailers and tents held the heat close and unbreathable. In the crowded flats and overflowing houses along Tireman and Epworth Boulevard in the Negro district, the heat pressed down like the sweaty hand of John Henry. The Poles and Hamtramck felt it, and the 2 and 3 families crammed into one-family apartments. Their tempers grew shorter as the day lengthened from one hot hour to another. Those who could find any way to get there headed for lovely Belle Isle in the Detroit River and a breath of fresh air. But when the flat, hot sun dropped into the lake on the other side of Michigan, the twilight brought little relief. And still sweating, tempers shortened even more, they started home to another sticky, sleepless night. The traffic moved slowly across the bridge from Belle Isle, cars creeping bumper to bumper, the crowds on foot filling the sidewalk. Something happened there. No one is quite sure what. But something happened that hot Sunday last month. Something in itself trivial. Something like this.
Eddie, you're not going to get us home any faster by blowing the horn.
If that guy ahead will just move forward, I can get into the other line.
Oh, Eddie, don't
Shut up. There, now I got a break. Did you see that? He pulled out right in front of me. Hey, you stupid jerk.
What's the big idea, Bud?
Oh, a Negro, huh? Listen, you, get out of that car and I'll show you, you black punk.
Eddie, please.
I'll show him. What's the idea, brother?
You know how crowds are. Nothing like a good fight. You push up as close as you can and you get pushed, and it's usually all in good fun. But this crowd was tired and hot and full of deep-seated grievances that June evening. It promptly took sides, and taking sides broke up into other fights. And those out on the edge couldn't tell what was going on. And the reports they got were garbled. And they got garbled worse.
What's going on? A couple of guys fighting. The black boy's quite a baby with his fist.
A fight about a baby on the Belle Isle Bridge.
A baby throwed off a Belle Isle Bridge.
Yeah, I tell you, Lucius just got back from Belle Isle. He saw it. There was a big fight, and a white fellow throwed a colored woman and her baby off the bridge into the river, and they was drowned.
That's the way the rumor hit the slums of Paradise Valley, the Negro section, a month ago. And it spread. There was another rumor, the white version.
What's the trouble? I don't know. Tangled bumpers, I guess. That's the white guy's gal sitting in the car.
They're fighting over a white girl on the Belle Isle Bridge.
There's plenty of trouble over on Belle Isle. Negro and a white gal.
Negro attacked a white gal over on Belle Isle. Call up the guys.
Rumor, more dangerous than dynamite, more deadly than a plague. Rumors tailor-made. One for black ears, one for white ears. Stories about things that never had happened. The trouble had started.
But just because a couple of men had a fight on the Belle Isle Bridge?
Oh, no. It goes much deeper than that. Much further back.
Really?
Yes, back nearly a quarter of a century. You see, Detroit grew up fast.
I'll say it did, brother. Want some figures on that?
Why, yes, if you don't mind.
Not at all, not at all. That's what I'm here for. From 1920 to 1930, while Detroit was putting the world on wheels, our population increased by 500,000. And today we're on our way to... Pardon me, I see some prospects. Hey, you, mister. How'd you like to work in a defense plant in Detroit?
No, not me. I got a good job at the tire factory right here in Akron.
How about you?
Pittsburgh's good enough for me. We got to make the steel before you can make the tanks.
What do you say, pal?
Listen, lay off, will you? Toledo's got its own manpower problem.
Okay. No harm in asking. Hey, you down there in South Carolina.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you. How'd you like to come up north and work in the defense plant?
Well, now, I hadn't thought about it.
Pay the highest wages, better than you can make in the cotton mill.
Yeah?
Yeah, and you'll be living high on the hog in Detroit. Beautiful town, right on the lake. Bring along the missus and the kids.
Well, I'll think about it.
You can clean up quick in Detroit, and after the war, you can go back down south and retire.
I could, huh?
Sure. Report Monday?
Yeah, mister. Sure, and thanks.
Pardon me.
Yeah, what?
Why are you recruiting labor in the South when you've already got a big supply of labor in Detroit?
What are you talking about?
The Negroes.
Listen, Bud, we're not hiring any Negroes.
But the War Manpower Commission has ordered that local labor had to be exhausted before you could
Maybe
go
they
out.
did, but they're not enforcing the order, and we don't want any black...
Hey, boss, I got a message for you.
Yeah? What is it? Oh, is that a fact?
Yeah, so you better do something fast.
Okay. Pardon me, pal.
Go right ahead.
Hey, boy.
Yes, sir.
Want a good job?
I sure do. What I have to do for it?
Nothing. Just come to Detroit.
Detroit?
Sure. Work in the war plants, making tanks and guns.
Sure enough.
On the level.
But I'm a field hand. I don't know nothing about working in no factory.
It's all right. We'll teach you.
Well,
You can make more in a month than you get in a year working in the fields.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. Plenty of chance for advancement, too.
Advancement?
Yeah, nothing to hold you back in Detroit. Why, if you make the grade, we might even promote you to straw boss.
You ain't just joshing me.
No, sirree. And you'll be living in paradise in Detroit.
Paradise?
Well, Paradise Valley.
Mister, that sounds too good to be true.
I can count on you?
Yes, sir. You sure can. You sure can.
But didn't you say a minute ago that you didn't want any Negro labor?
Yeah, but I just got word that the boys back home have changed their minds. They've hired all the Negroes in Detroit, and we got to get more labor. Lots more.
More. Lots more. In 3 years, Detroit has imported 500,000 Negroes and whites, mostly from the South.
That's right. As many people as live in New Orleans and the state of Arizona. It's a big operation.
It certainly is. But Detroit doesn't have houses for 500,000 extra people. Detroit doesn't have enough streetcars and buses to move the state of Arizona back and forth from work. Detroit doesn't have enough parks or movie houses or bowling alleys to entertain an additional New Orleans.
Today, it is impossible to rent a decent house within 50 miles of Detroit.
No houses, but jobs, plenty of jobs for black and white, for Native Americans and Polish-born immigrants. And all the prejudices of Detroit's polyglot population awaited the new army of war workers. Subversive organizers and native Nazi orators took to soapboxes outside a dozen war plants.
I'd rather see Hitler and Hirohito win than work beside a Negro on the assembly line.
Detroit was dynamite. The fist fight on the Belle Isle Bridge set off the fuse. By the dawn of Monday, June 21st, Detroit blew up. That bloody Monday, Woodward Avenue, the wide boulevard which divides the city, became a hunting ground upon which no Negro was safe. Along Hastings Street in the heart of Paradise Valley, bands of Negroes, fired by rumors, smashed the windows of white storekeepers, overturned the cars of white motorists, and were shot by the police. On Woodward Avenue, 100,000 white men armed with lengths of pipe and beer bottles beat up Negroes until their arms ached.
And in the great factories of Detroit, which proudly claims the title of Arsenal of Democracy,
few men worked that day. From bloody dawn to bloody dawn in that single day, these insurrectionists wasted 1 million man-hours. How many of your sons will die for lack of the tanks and planes and guns which Detroit did not make that day? We lost Bataan gallantly. We surrendered Corregidor with honor. We were defeated at Detroit by ourselves in shame and humiliation. But not all Detroit went blind with bloodlust that hot Monday. There were black people and white people whose conduct proved them, first of all, to be human beings. There was a prominent Negro doctor who was leaving his office on his way to an emergency meeting of city officials at the Negro Y when the white druggist in his building called to him.
Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson.
Oh, Mr. Stewart. You shouldn't have opened your store this morning.
I didn't know how bad it was. Now I don't know what to do.
Well, you'd better close up and go home.
I'm afraid they'd mob me before I got to Woodward Avenue.
Yes, they might. I'll tell you. You lock up right now, and I'll drive you through.
But you'd be taking a chance, too.
You're my friend, Mr. Stewart.
And the white man was driven through the threatening, jeering Negro mob by his colored friend to safety, close to the no-man's land of Woodward Avenue. And there were white people, too, who acted with sanity and bravery on that insane day. In a streetcar crawling through the mobs on Woodward Avenue sat a woman and her daughter.
Oh, Mother, look at them beating up that poor man.
It's disgraceful, outrageous.
Oh, look. The mob's coming towards this car.
Now, don't get excited, Elsie.
There's a colored man sitting across the aisle. Oh, Mother, I'm
Well,
afraid.
they won't get him. You, mister, you. Come here.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick, get down here under the seat.
Mother, what are you going
Be quiet,
to do?
Elsie. Spread out your skirts so you hide him.
Oh.
God bless you, ma'am. Any Negroes inside?
There are not.
Okay, ma'am. Just want to make sure. All right, boys. Let's God bless you, ma'am. God bless you.
Now, you stay right where you are until we get out of this. Those hoodlums. I've lived all my life in Detroit, and today I'm ashamed of it.
And there were 3 sailors that bloody Monday who proved how much courage a mob has.
Let me go. I ain't done nothing. I'm just on my way home from work.
Shut up, you dirty.
Hey, let that man go. Let him go.
Well, the U.S. Navy to the rescue. Hey, you got friends, 8-4.
Go, please.
Let him go.
What's it to you, sailor?
I'll tell you, bum.
What are you calling a bum?
I'm just paying off a debt. There was a colored guy on my ship that saved the life of one of my buddies.
You got me weeping.
Hey, give this fella a hand.
Right. Come along, kid. We'll get you out of this. Thank you, sailor. Thank you.
Listen, Cobb, if you didn't have that uniform on, you wouldn't get away with that.
Okay, I'll be glad to oblige. I'll take it off. Ace, you better peel off your jumper, too.
A pleasure.
Would you mind holding these for us, kid?
Sure thing, sailor.
Okay, you punks. Do you want to take us on one at a time or both together?
Well, we ain't picking no fights with white men. We're after colored guys.
Yeah, and you're stirring up the kind of trouble we went to war to stop. Now, you jerks better get off the streets before the Army gets into town and starts using you for target practice.
Late that night, the Army finally did arrive. And for the first time in 24 hours, a fitful peace reluctantly fell on the debris-filled streets of Detroit. The score? 1,800 arrested, 85% Negroes.
600 injured, the majority Negroes.
35 dead, 29 Negroes,
17 of them shot by the police.
Accomplished?
Nothing.
Two nights after the troops arrived, the class of 1943 was graduated at Northeastern High School. Its members included 29 Negro boys and girls. The sincere words of the commencement speaker that night seemed tinged with bitter irony.
Analyze the problems of today. See if you can work out your own destiny through democratic processes. You must if democracy is to survive. The world cannot go on half free and half slave.
In the park outside the high school, 80 policemen stand on guard. And behind them, little groups of hoodlums, toughened by 2 days of street fighting, gather in the shadows.
Democracy is more than just casting your ballot. It is something that must be lived 24 hours each day. It is learning to live collectively.
A lesson their elders had proved that they had not learned. A challenge difficult to accept when you have for 2 days watched democracy go up in the smoke of burning automobiles and trickle away in the bloody gutters. It is nearly over. The last moments of their 4 years together. Their last song together. Black and white voices blending. The hoodlums out in the park hear the song through the open windows. The mob begins to form. The policemen stiffen, glance nervously about. And then the song is over, and with congratulations and well wishes cut short by the 10 o'clock curfew, the Negro and white members of the Northeastern High School class of 1943 step out into the world. The police line wavers. The girl graduates in their summery dresses cringe. The boys stand there a moment indecisively.
I'm not going to let them think they can scare me. Come on, who's walking my way?
I'll go with you. So will I.
The three classmates, 2 Negro, 1 white, start down the street. Across the way, behind the line of police, the mob paces them.
Don't walk too fast.
Geez, I'm being inducted into the Army next week. To fight for them.
It doesn't seem worth it.
At the street corner, the mob breaks through the police line, sweeps across the street, and then suddenly halts. 4 truckloads of soldiers with fixed bayonets roll up to a stop.
All right, boys, on the double. Clear the area. All right, you guys, come on there. Break it up. Let's go.
Slowly, at the point of the bayonet, the rabble of kluxers, cowards, and crackpots retreat into the shadows whence they came. Northeastern High School, class of 43, has graduated without bloodshed. So an armed peace came to the troubled streets of Detroit. And most of us, knowing little and perhaps caring less why such things occur, forgot about it. But not the rest of the world.
Hello, here is Radio Berlin calling in the Asiatic service. The disturbances in Detroit have now also come to an end, owing to the intervention of the troops whom Roosevelt dispatched to the scene. There is no doubt about the fact that the problem of labor and capital cannot be solved by the present rulers of the USA.
And listen to the voice of Tokyo addressing the billion brown and yellow inhabitants of Asia.
The Detroit riots of June the 20th, in which hundreds of Negroes were sacrificed to the altar of American white superiority complex, was nothing more than the latest of acts of intolerable cruelty of the people who pay lip service to democracy. How can America hope to bring an order of liberty and equality among the more complicated, vastly more difficult family of races in the world when it can't manage its own race problem? It simply can't.
Those words have the ring of logic to millions of people all around the world. Millions who look upon us with justified suspicion. And the question those words pose is not rhetoric, but literal. The answer lies with each one of us. We cannot command the respect of mankind with the blood of fellow Americans upon our hands. There are some places in the nation where citizens are showing common sense, tact, and tolerance. In Houston, Texas, for instance, last month, rumors were launched that there would be a race riot on Saturday, June 19th, when the Negro population celebrate the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation in the festival they call Juneteenth. A committee of prominent Negro and white citizens, headed by the mayor, stopped the trouble before it started with a full-page advertisement in the Houston papers, which read,
"Don't do Hitler's work. Stop circulating rumors which create tenseness and interfere with war production, and attend to your own business. The colored people of this vicinity are entitled to celebrate their traditional Juneteenth holiday on Saturday pleasantly and in peace. And the fact that they gather for their customary celebration on that day is no evidence of any intention on their part to create a disturbance. Law enforcement authorities are prepared to deal with thoughtless hoodlums, white or colored, who provoke trouble. Don't be a rumor monger."
There was no riot in Houston on June 19th because decent, law-abiding citizens saw one coming and did something about it. Each of us can do the same thing in his community. It's not the people who serve on the committees and lead the parades and make the speeches who will stop race hatred. It's each one of us. Each anonymous citizen keeping his head on his shoulders, his fists unclenched, and his mouth shut. We've got too tough an enemy to beat overseas to fight each other here at home. We hope that this open letter about the irreparable damage race hatred has already done to our prestige, our war effort, and our self-respect will have moved you to make a solemn promise to yourself that wherever you are, and whatever is your color or your creed, you will never allow intolerance or prejudice of any kind to make you forget that you are first of all an American, with sacred obligations to every one of your fellow citizens. Sincerely yours, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a postscript to our open letter to you, we present Mr. Wendell Wilkie.
This is a time for serious thought and sober words. For the situation which flared so tragically in Detroit has its counterpart, actual or potential, in many American cities. Such instances of mob madness cannot be treated as single cases because they are profound in their effect in this country and lasting in their impression throughout the world. 2/3 of the people who are allied with us do not have white skins, and they have long, hurtful memories of the white man's superior attitude in his dealings with them. Today, the white man is professing friendship and a desire to cooperate, and is promising opportunity in the world to come when the world is over. They wonder, when the necessities of war cease to make cooperation valuable to the white man, will his promises mean anything? Race riots in Detroit, Los Angeles, and Beaumont, Texas, do not reassure them. The situation is grave, both at home and in its effects abroad. We must therefore seek the basic causes and find the ways for their elimination. Practical, direct, positive ways. 1/10 of the people in this country belong to the Negro race. In the spirit in which our independence was gained and our republic established, there are certain things these Negro citizens are entitled to, not as a matter of patronage or tolerance, but as a matter of right. They are entitled to protection under the law, and when their safety demands it, to prompt and vigorous enforcement of the law. It is their right that there shall be no discrimination between them in the administration of the law in federal, state, or local governments. They are entitled to the same opportunity to acquire an education of the same quality as that given to other citizens. They should receive the same per capita expenditure of public monies for health and hospitalization as is allotted to other citizens. They have a right, as has every citizen, to the elimination of all arbitrary restrictions on voting through taxation or otherwise. Their right to work must equal that of any citizen, and their reward should be the same as the reward of any other citizen for the same job. Their economic opportunities should not be limited by their color. And last, they should have the rights of every citizen to fight for his country in any branch of her armed services. These are rights that the Negroes of our community is entitled to share with every other citizen. We must see to it that he gets them. But in addition to his rights are certain human needs, which he also shares with his fellow citizens, and they too must be cared for. The most pressing today for black and white is adequate and decent housing. If this cannot be secured through the operation of our private economy, it is an obligation that must be undertaken by government, preferably local, but if necessary, federal. There is one thing further which seems to me to have a real bearing on the welfare of the Negro citizen. It concerns the Negro's political status. Our two major political parties have their separate ways of approaching the Negro vote. One has a tendency to ask the Negro for his vote as recompense for an act of simple justice done 80 years ago. The other retains political power by, in effect, depriving the Negro of his right to vote in one part of the country while seeking his vote in another on the plea of great friendship for his race. Both attitudes must be changed. One party cannot go on feeling that it has no further obligation to the Negro citizen because Abraham Lincoln freed the slave, and the other is not entitled to power if it sanctions and practices one set of principles in Atlanta and another in Harlem. Our whole purpose today is with our allies to defeat fascism, but all the forces of fascism are not with our enemies. Fascism is an attitude of mind, an attitude which causes men to seek to rule others by economic, military, or political force, or through prejudice. Such an attitude within our own borders is as serious a threat to freedom as the attack without. The desire to deprive some of our citizens of their rights, economic, civil, or political, has the same basic motivation as actuates the fascist mind when it seeks to dominate whole peoples and whole nations. It is essential that we eliminate it at home as well as abroad.
The July 24th, 1943 broadcast of the Open Letter on Race Hatred, written, produced, and directed by Bill Robson, narrated by Jackson Beck. And for that program, Bill Robson won his second Emmy. Or Emmy, good heavens.
Perish the thought.
Perish the thought is right. Peabody, I should say. 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 Should say.